to just say, Mr. Babb,
And good night.
good night to you.
Good night
And
to
yeah,
all the viewers and those watching online, the loyal opposition.
I don't know if you were listening, but
I was. I
you were
was.
listening.
Yes, I was.
And the last thing I will say before you jump in, and I know some of my other panelists, they're like, oh Lord, Marcia gone down that road now.
Yes.
But listen, to be fair, I don't do this every night. So I am looking at our issue that we're having, Mr. Bob, and looking at it from different angles on this show. And this is a spiritual angle, okay? And I want to say to people who say to me, oh, the reason oh, she hates this person. She hates the prime minister, she hates whatever. No, I've never met the prime minister. I've never met the prime minister. What I am speaking about, these are some things that I know. And so that's why I cannot be one with what I think, things that are, if I think that something is, that someone is doing is evil, if I think that, Mr. Bob, I cannot be one with that person. But it's not the person. I don't hate the person. I will never be one with evil. But over to you, sir. Welcome to the Marcia
Hi.
Show.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. I just want to just follow up quickly before. In the days of Noah, when he preached, it was just like no. Those things he preached what God told him to preach. He said what God wanted to say and to warn people. And like no, people have somehow turned their backs on those things and was scoffed at those things spiritual. So when Noah preached about a flood, they laugh and scoff at what God would have done. But when things come to a head, there will be a flood as well. It may not come in water, but we will see what it entails. Because justice and right will always prevail. And I always say there's a time and season for everything under the sun. So I don't become too worried. Yes, you're concerned at this point in time with what is happening in Barbados, but I believe that the only thing forever is God, and this will have its end somewhere or the other. So those persons who believe that you're trying to re, talk about or these irreferring things and there's not spirituality is not necessary or is not part of what is happening, they too will find that they will have a rude awakening about what it really is. Because we're generally spiritual beings. We acknowledge that there's a God. We acknowledge that this life as what it is not really the end of us. We just come or we be just like the dumb animals. So that is my take on what you were saying earlier as I followed.
Thank you, sir. And I know you have so much on your mind this evening. And you told me today that you're going to talk about the PM's invitation to the DLP. Is it real or is it a pretense?
I want to say that an invitation is typically considered serious when it includes specific details. And the seriousness of an invitation can also depend on the context and the relationship between the sender and the recipient. Now, we have a situation where over the last 7 years, that anything that was called DLP was scoffed at. Nobody wanted to hear the stalwarts. Nobody wanted to, and that is what they put out there in their public relations every minute of every year for the last 7 years. As recently as the by election, you there was a talk about money, which is very important in any campaign, that this government has control over. And they know that to run a successful campaign, that the party needs funds.
Mhm.
But instead of granting that, They made laughing sport. They use their influencers and social media persons to poke fun at the fact that it took some time for the DLP to secure a campaign house.
Mhm.
Now, if Marcia, if you for all this time or entire year did everything in your power to ensure that what little success I am going to achieve in life, that you put stumbling blocks in my way,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden in July you invited me, you sent an invitation to me to be part of something, I would be skeptical. It is human nature. My, if you spent all that time discrediting me as a person, and then all of a sudden receive an invitation from you, I would say to myself, what is she up to? What is the motivation behind the invitation? So you have to put in context the relationship between the sender and the recipient, which is the Democratic Labour Party. And if you're spending all this time in Barbados to even put up there on a regular basis, and you know what alerted me that it wasn't sincere? When the article was posted online, the amount of supporters of the Barbados Labour Party that came out there in great numbers to discredit the opposition leader. So to change the narrative from what is actually happening in Barbados as it relates to crime, because they're losing that narrative, they are then going to come up, send their influencers to say to the people of Barbados, we are trying to work with him, but no, it is his fault that this is happening. It is not sincere. It's about a publicity, public relations stunt, and you have to call it for what it is.
Yeah, when you said that to me today, I said I totally concur because when you think, Mr. Bob, that the DLP is supposed to be, they don't even want to hear the DLP. They don't want to hear people. One little young boy came on and he said basically, he basically hates the opposition leader. That was said in other words, but basically that's what he said, that he
Mm-hmm.
detests him. And this was said from their party, and this was said on brass tacks,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all the things that been said about the DLP, that they're never to rise again, they can't do anything. Why are you now calling them to a meeting? It's very confusing, and it's very strange. I agree
Yes,
with you.
they're losing the narrative on the crime, and and there's another attempt to kill off the voice of the opposition, because you would try to appear to be including them. And I remember a number of years ago, one famous, now deceased PM practiced what we call the politics of inclusion. And you know what that did? That was supposed to silence those persons who were most vocal against the party. You keep them in check by appearing to include them. So therefore, if you're included, you're least likely to voice opposition against the party. But I want the people tonight to understand why opposition is very important in a democracy.
But before you go on, you said something very important there, Mr. Bob, that if they were really interested, you said something about money that the DLP needs in order for the
Not
DLP
not
to
not
even.
necessarily the DLP needs money, but any political party, whether in opposition or in government, money runs a campaign. Money runs successful campaigns. They're expensive. So instead of, if you're encouraging the opposition or encouraging opposition, would you withhold the very thing that will make them more viable or relevant?
Hmm. Say that again, Miss. Say that again, Mr. Bob. That's very interesting because you, with one hand, you're tearing them down, but then you're calling them to
Yes,
come to this meeting. So do say what you just said again, because it
I
might go
say
over people's
I
head.
was saying that the main thing or the most important thing, one of the important things of a campaign or a political life is access to funding. But if you are have placed systems in place to withhold that important thing that makes them a viable opposition, that keeps them strong, to encourage opposition, then you're not really interested in the party. You're not interested in the opposition. So the invitation that you sent has to be taken with a grain of salt. Yes, you're using what they're using, and they do it pretty well. That they're using the public emotion because we all are very concerned at what is happening on our streets, the death, the crime, what is happening to our young men, how they're leaving so early or taking out so early. Yes, so that evokes an emotional response. So they're hoping that because the opposition leader says no way, that they can win the narrative on crime.
Very interesting. Yeah, and
But
you're gonna
I
go
want
ahead.
I want our people to zero in on what they have been doing for the last 7 years. Whenever the chips are down, they switch to blaming the opposition. They find a way through their public relations to shift the narrative, and someone put the blame on the opposition. And this is one of those occasions. And I'm saying to all Rick, we cannot allow ourselves to be hoodwinked by that kind of public relations stuff anymore. We have to we have to think about what they're doing. Just connect the dots, and let them know that we're onto you. And the
Because what?
decision, and then you make
Go
the
ahead.
decision, and then you make the decision, and then you make the decision based on what you have seen, because there will be the footpaths, and there will be to follow. You will be able to follow what they are doing, and if you look back, you will see it. They're they're good at coining phrases. The lost decade. This is who we are. Those things that appeal to your emotion. Stay the course. What else they said over the
Yeah,
years?
that's Mia cares.
Their peers, biggest lie, biggest political lie. Cares about what? But you can't allow, and we can't allow ourselves as a people, whether it is the BLP in opposition or the DLP in opposition, to ever feel that there's that or negate the importance of having opposition in a democracy. And that is what they're doing.
How important you to you is an opposition in a democracy? How important do you think it is, Mr. Bab?
The opposition plays a crucial role in maintaining a balance of power and ensuring that the ruling party's actions are in the best interest of the people. That is how important opposition is. Because you can't have a runaway government who debates with themselves, who bring legislations to the parliament, and there's a thumping, and there's no challenge or even an alternative view on any issues. And you would have noticed that over the past 7 years, and people should have noticed that we were always, as a people, fighting something, some type of legislation from this government. Whether it was the cybercrime bill, whether it was in education, there was always something that the public had to stand up and say to them, no, this can't
Mhm.
work. Go back and come again. And if for 7 years you have to be fighting a government to change legislation, rethink legislation, that should tell you that we need an opposition to maintain democracy.
You know, I'm listening to you speak, and you know, and sharing with us, reminding us why we need an opposition. And I hope the loyal opposition is also listening. And you know, because of the work that we do, some people say to me, Marcia, you're not tired. No, we're not tired.
Can't
Why am
get
I going
tired.
to be tired? We can't get tired. Why are we going to
Can't
be
get
tired?
tired.
We make up, we are the, remember, we always say Mr. Thorne is that opposite, he's inside. We the people, we're outside, it's just him alone. So we are going to do all that we can to support and to hold up his hand. And we see him going there on a Tuesday, and he's standing up to them on our behalf,
Yes,
you
because
know.
he goes there. Another opposition role of the opposition is to scrutinize the government's policies,
Hmm.
provide alternative solutions, hold the government accountable, play a significant role in debates and discussion ensuring that a number of perspectives are considered before making decisions. So don't go in there, you don't go in, and because you have everybody in the cabinet and they're yes people, that you go into the House Assembly and you're going to cabinet and then come back to the House Assembly, then you're going to Senate and everybody is saying yes about critical decisions that would affect the masses of people. That cannot be allowed to continue, whether it is the DLP and government or the BLP and government.
Whichever one is in
Yes,
government, that's what I say. I mean, I don't have a problem, whoever is in government. What, let's have a strong opposition. I'm all for that. And I'm still stuck at the point that you made, that, you know, if this government was serious about having a strong and formidable opposition, they would give the subvention and not
yes,
doubling down on, when, I mean, they have so much money, you know,
lots of money
lots of money.
that even the prime minister can take up some of her, on inverted commas, of her own and give away $1 million. You understand that what is to give away $1 million in this day and age? How much you have in surplus?
Correct.
It's a
That you
lot of
give
money to
away a
give away.
million, which, yeah,
And not
which,
only give away a million, you give away the land too. And then on the heels of announcing extensive borrowing to pay back interest on a debt, you have given away $300 to over 100,000 workers. If people, they're not thinking as a people, and nobody is asking where this money come from, you're borrowing and giving away at the same time. Something ain't adding up, and we have to start thinking and asking questions, pertinent questions of this government, and that is why opposition is very important.
correct. And someone wrote something here. I wanted to find it. Someone sent this to me, and they actually believe the same thing. It said, and this has to do with the DLP being asked to come to the table. The person said the DLP then should ask that the Public Accounts Committee be allowed to meet.
Of course,
If you're going to ask the DLP to come to the table, and don't forget that the DLP spent weeks and months coming up with their own crime. What do you call
yes.
it? What do you call it? It's
They had their own crime commission.
the own right,
Headed
the
by
crime
Verla de
commission,
Pisa. Yes.
led by Verla de Pisa, who is quite capable. So it's
Yes.
not that they don't have, that they don't care about crime.
But
They spend money.
have they asked to for the findings to be shared? That's a question that we should
Exactly.
ask.
And it was announced they had their crime commission before the prime minister
Yes.
started to bring all these people together. The DLP, that's one of the first things that Mr. Thorne did when he crossed over, was to put a commission on crime together, right?
Yes.
And they have all the findings, they have everything they're preparing, right? But they don't want that. They want them to come now, right?
Mhm.
So this person says the DLP should demand that the Public Accounts Committee be allowed to meet. They should demand all of the 150 case submissions since 2018.
Mhm. Yes.
They said the leader of the opposition should make these demands as a condition of coming to any table with them on anything.
That's it.
Demand to be treated as the opposition party, not only when it suits Motley, who by this invitation is looking for others to help shoulder the blame for the current watershed occurrence of murders in Barbados, which is her legacy and hers alone.
Mhm.
The person said this is a clear indication as any Motley that Motley and crew have no answers. They do not want to share in praise, but always looking for scapegoats to shoulder blame.
Yes.
Asking the DLP to come to the table, the DLP should demand, as an incentive to do so, that the 150K subvention totals since 2018, and that BLP parliamentarians be mandated to show up to form a quorum for the Public Accounts Committee, so that the Public Accounts Committee can
Can
do its
function.
work. And the
Yes.
person who wrote this, if you want me to say your name, I want to I want to be able to give you credit. So please message me and let me know if I can say your name.
Mhm.
Yes. So you're in a group.
The
That's
person is
basically what you're saying.
perfectly correct. You can't continue. This government cannot continue to believe that they have all the cards. They cannot believe, and and then if you speak to some of them, they get on as if they are the only person who know about governance. There's this level of arrogance and something ignorance and how they respond to you, that you will be talking about a serious situation, and then all of a sudden you see some kind of stupid cartoon trying to discredit you. So I want finally to say, in terms of the opposition, is that the accountability, which is very important, they should question the government's decisions and policies, ensuring transparency and honesty. They should also recognize that the opposition should all recognize that they are an alternative government. And if the ruling party fails to govern effectively, then they should be replaced. And this government is failing on has a failing grade in education, healthcare, housing, crime, and the list goes on. So you're calling me to table to rubber stamp your feeling, or to make the public believe that yes, we're not doing too well, but we have your support. No. If you are failing, the public should know it is time to replace you. So that is what it's about. And the opposition and those persons who are on the outside looking in, who don't support either B or D, but they will have a decision to make in the governance of this country. And we will always have to make that decision. We cannot throw up our hands and say all of them are the same. We have to let them know, as they did in 2018, that we are not pleased and we are going to replace you.